Zoop. That's Nintendo. That's Nintendo right now, because even their shareholders could ruin the Switch 2 surprise. A brand new shareholders call reveals even more. So good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. We've got a lot to discuss today, including how Nintendo is operating and what they've changed to ensure that their surprises stay paramount, stay on the pedestal that they've put them on. So what's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. We've also got a new Switch game coming from our favorite Switch port house. So we'll talk about that in a second, but make sure to let me know in the comments down below how you feel about Nintendo's approach to all of this Switch 2 stuff, and hit that like button if you enjoy this video. It's a great way to help support the channel, which we're trying to keep pushing along as Nintendo pushes more and more ports. Aspire, they are the lovers of the blade, the lightsaber blade, because they're making another Star Wars game for Switch. This time Jango Fett and Star Wars Bounty Hunter are dropping on a Nintendo Switch later this year. It's actually going to be August 1st, so coming up in about a month's time. They have made adjustments. They say that there's visual enhancements, improved textures, new dynamic lighting, a flashlight tool for dark level missions, and a Boba Fett skin that can be unlocked by completing the main campaign. Now, Star Wars Bounty Hunter is a pretty cool game because it's the game that Star Wars 1313 was supposed to be, and maybe it's even the game that Star Wars Outlaws wants to be. You're not a straight up bounty hunter in Outlaws, but you are an outlaw, which is kind of as close as we're going to get. I think there was a canceled another Mandalorian game or something of the sort. Basically, they've tried to make this game again, and they haven't been able to. So why not play the one that they actually made? This is set before Attack of the Clones, and Jango Fett is our hero or villain or just main character. Pretty fun game, and I think it's one that, if priced appropriately, which Aspire usually does, will be interesting to check out. But let's talk about Nintendo and what they're doing with shareholders. One of the things they're doing is shutting down leaks. Okay, they actually addressed this and talked about this, which is pretty darn cool, because it was surprising that the last Nintendo Direct was very surprising, right? We didn't know about Mario and Luigi Brothership. We didn't know about Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, except some murmurs. We didn't know about Mario Party Jamboree, except Codename Banquet. And Nintendo says this was intentional. We have become aware of the specific issues pointed out through the media reports and other sources. We work with specialist companies to diagnose information security and take various other measures. The company has introduced information security management as part of its internal information security system and is also working on continuous education for employees. Now, they didn't say any specific names, but it seems like this is directly related to Pyoro and the leak that YouTube, and Google were leaking video game stuff for years now. They were asked specifically about, what kind of investments they're making, how they're trying to limit leaks, and Nintendo could have said same protocol, we do what we do, we always try to keep our developers, their work prioritized, but Nintendo went out of their way to state that they've actually invested additional resources and more time in training on how they're going to prevent this stuff in the future. So it really does seem that hey, we are going to ensure that Pyoro does not squawk again. We're going to ensure that copycats do not squawk again, and we're going to do what we can with some specialist companies to go through and figure out how this stuff was happening and to prevent it from happening again. So we might be back in an era of completely surprising Nintendo Directs, which honestly is phenomenal as we transition to Switch 2. Honestly, that feels so darn good and something that I can get behind. If we can get back to leaks, after 3 or 4 years of Switch 2, fine. But if we want just the opening salvo of a Nintendo Switch, what the Mario game's like, what the launch lineup's like, what Mario Kart 9 is like, let it all be a surprise. Let it be exciting, because I think that created such an awesome environment for the last Direct. Yes, the games were great, but part of the most fun I had with the June Direct was that we didn't know what was going to be there. And we don't know what's going to be there for Switch 2. And Nintendo is not going to let shareholders stomp on their parade. I thought this was fascinating and just goes to show you how much Nintendo cares about keeping their upcoming system and their plans very secretive. We know that Nintendo has been kind of all quiet on the Switch 2 front. They said we'll announce the next system within the next fiscal year, but they gave no promise on release date, no promise on specs, no updates on what they're targeting or what they're going for, besides the fact that Nintendo accounts will maintain congruently across generations. Now it's getting to be the time where shareholders want to know what's going on. Shareholders have a vested interest in knowing what Nintendo's planning and how their forecast is going to be lining up. One of the things that shareholders did point out is that, The forecast is so unpredictable because Nintendo is not saying whether or not this system's coming out, whether or not they are transitioning yet, whether or not they're just going to let the Switch run for as long as humanly possible. I would think that some of these investors are quieted a bit, knowing that Nintendo is entering the holiday season with Mario, and Zelda. It's a pretty great trifecta right there. They decided not to cheap out on the second half of 2024. They are not coasting super smoothly on just remakes. They don't have Donkey Kong Country HD for $60 being their huge holiday title. By the way, $60 is criminal. But they are still in this waiting period where shareholders want to know what Nintendo is doing. Nintendo stressed to the shareholders in this call how important surprises are. Now, Nintendo has always believed in things of this sort. Nintendo has always had more of a whimsical mind to this. If you think back to Iwata's reign as the president of the company, he was very big on the majestic, magical, fun nature of Nintendo. Always making the games fun, always trying to come up with new, innovative ways to create joy and create smiles. It was something that was talked about quite frequently within Nintendo. And this idea of surprise, I think, is just sort of it is a descendant of that philosophy. It is trying to keep that joy, that smile, that spark that Nintendo has had, and that spark that maybe Nintendo feels some of the other gaming publishers and companies have not maintained as well. In an era where so many games are games as service, so many games are just multiplayer hero shooters, maybe Nintendo feels like, you know what, everybody else has kind of gotten a little soft. We want to make sure that we keep and maintain our level of enthusiasm, of fun, and of surprise. And they said they will not be revealing the products they're working on to the shareholders because it would ruin the surprise. And they still want to have good communication with shareholders. They still want to be friendly despite this refusal of information, but that they will not let the Switch 2 be spoiled by shareholders. So that basically goes to tell you that even these shareholder calls, even these investor meetings are going to give us nothing, no details. We will not know for sure what Nintendo is planning and what Nintendo has in the works until Nintendo themselves state it. And given their fall lineup, Nintendo has bought themselves a considerable amount of time. I don't think it would be that surprising if Nintendo chose to wait till 2025 to reveal the Switch 2. Given that they have a really strong lineup now coming up for the holiday season, they're in no rush. And the fact that investors seem to be backing off a bit, shareholders are kind of taking somewhat of a backseat, like still curious about it, but mostly focusing on the unpredictable nature of the forecast, not like what the heck is Nintendo doing. They've got Metroid Prime 4 on the docket. They've got Donkey Kong back on the docket. They got Mario Party, and Zelda, featuring Zelda as the playable character. We're really in a position where shareholders probably feel pretty good that Nintendo is going to keep posting profits. And now Nintendo themselves is telling us they're not going to be sharing this information and spoiling the surprise in any way. That means no name reveal, that means no spec reveal, and that probably means even no sort of overarching philosophy or thematic reveal of what the Switch 2 stands for. Now, we basically have our assumptions based on leaks and rumors that the Switch 2 is a more powerful Switch 1, but we won't hear that from Nintendo. We won't know what they're planning until they pop it out. And I don't think Nintendo is going to have some big, long notice, right? I don't think they're going to say, like, coming in March, we're announcing the next Switch. Coming in December, we're announcing the next system. It will probably be a spooky tweet, or it'll probably be a stealth drop trailer, or it'll probably be out of nowhere. Nintendo just says, huzzah, here it is. What they have done is gone on the record to say when they won't be talking about it. They made clear that they won't be talking about it at the June Direct, and they didn't. It'll be very interesting to see when the September Direct rolls around if they say the same thing. And right now, I'm expecting them to do so. If there is a normal Nintendo Switch General Direct for September, I would not expect any Switch 2 information to be featured once again. The only way that happens if Nintendo decides that they're not going to have a normal Direct and instead kind of turns the Direct into this big Switch 2 reveal party. But to me, September feels early, given that you've got Zelda coming out, Mario and Luigi Brothership coming out, and Mario Party Jamboree coming out. They've got 3 titles that they can easily emphasize in a Direct, and really no reason to cut the thunder of those upcoming cartridge sales. So I think Nintendo has bought themselves a lot of time, and they've set the table for no information until they say so. No leaks, no hints, no shareholder secrets, no whispers. Nintendo is on lockdown. They are eliminating their leaky pipes. They are trying to catch the birds and cage them so people like Pioro cannot squeak. They're putting a lot of energy and effort into making sure this transition is awesome, and part of that they feel is making it surprising, exciting, and their reveal on their terms at their time. So many things get spoiled, so many things get shifted around because of mistakes, leaks, accidental tweets, accidental trailers, things of that sort. And obviously Nintendo can't manage all of that. Some company will probably say something about a Switch 2, but it won't be Nintendo. Somebody will leak something about a port. Somebody's LinkedIn page will have revealing information. Somebody will accidentally post something at some point. We will have Switch 2 information, I betcha, from other sources. But from Nintendo, officially, in the capacity that we can register as a confirmation, Nintendo will only do it when Nintendo wants to do it. And at this point, that honestly could be still 6 months out. Nintendo could opt to wait till January of 2025 in order to reveal this new console, and I think they'd be totally fine by their investors. And anyway, that's kind of the only people they've worried about. I think they've pacified them, and they've set the expectation that we're not going to be telling you much. So the wait for Switch 2 continues. Nintendo is on complete lockdown. Shareholders are in the dark. Leakers are in the dark. And this is all shaping up to be a super, super exciting fall and a super exciting winter where we don't know what Nintendo's doing, but when we find out, it shall be glorious. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hit that like button if you enjoy these videos. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.